I'd like to welcome the director and the producer from the film. Sorry, we have a little issue, I guess, with the reel. Interesting story for all. Apparently, we had a little lag in these shorts. The reel actually flew off of the holder, so luckily nobody was injured up there in the projection. We appreciate their valuable tips in getting it back on track. So anyway, we can have Andy and Zach, White Grace. We got people here still for Q&A. Excellent. Excellent. And then we should have small change. Zach. Okay, come back. Excellent.
I'm David Lowery, I did Pioneer, and this is Myles, who starred.
Hi.
Do you have any questions for any of the wonderful films in this program?
How'd you get Will Holden?
I was a big fan of Will Holden's music, and I just always loved his music, and he's done a little bit of acting, and I thought when I wrote the script that he would just be really good in it, and I wrote him a letter and asked him if he would be interested in writing the script, and he said sure.
Was the bicycle race based on true?
Well, yeah, sort of. I think of it as a documentary, and there's a series of films that I'm making that have these common elements, which is a documentary story about difficult love entanglements, bicycles, with an improvisation from a jazz drummer named Dave King, and then this graphic-y white line on black field transformative animation style. So every 10 years I'm making a new installment with a different story. But I happen to be a part of this one, but in as much as it is a true story, there's always a subjective element to how history gets told, I guess. So it is a version of what happened, and things are distorted for dramatic purposes. And if you've ever seen Werner Herzog documentaries where he talks contemptuously about the truth of accountants and how he wants the poetical truth, it's a poetical truth along the lines of depicting events that occurred.
There's one right there.
In regard to the last movie, I forgot the title, but it said For My Dad, and I was wondering what's the story there? Did your dad tell you that story growing up?
My dad told me a lot of stories growing up. But the reason I wanted to make a movie, I've made a lot of movies that he did not like or didn't get, or were too weird or too whatever. And so I just wanted to make a movie that, like, for him to enjoy, and that would show that I actually did regard his parenting skills with a great deal of esteem, and that I love the way he raised us and the stories he would tell us, and so I wanted to make a movie for him.
I'd like to know if it's your first films here at Sundance. All of each of you separately.
Yeah.
This is my first film to play at Sundance.
I've been making films a long time, so I've been here a few times before.
Yeah, this is the first film at Sundance for me.
My name is Cathy Brady, and Small Change is also my first film at Sundance. And this is Tommy, my producer.
You talk to me.
How do your films get selected?
I know a little bit about that. I think that this year, for the short films, there was something like 5,000 to 6,000 films submitted, and there's been this explosion of productivity with the means of production getting less expensive and more accessible, so that it becomes a harder and harder job for selection committees. I've been on selection committees for animation festivals where in a 2-week period you have to watch 3,000 to 4,000 short films. And by consensus, the group can decide after a minute and a half to stop watching. a film if they think that it's not going to develop, which is a bit of a shame because there are films that are very, by nature, uneventful, at least as they establish themselves and have a really good dramatic or narrative payoff for development. So it becomes kind of a liability in a certain way, just the sheer number of films that they have to go through. But I was talking to a person last night who was selecting short films, and she said they do the best that they can and they often revisit films. But there's a lot of films, and it's a maddening process.
I have a question because there's several people here who have different films. How long did it take you guys to go from pre-production to post-production for your films?
I'll go first. I wrote mine last May, and we shot it in September. And I shot it and then did a rough cut and sent it to Sundance, and then I kind of didn't touch it again until I heard that we were in, and we were like, oh, we better go hurry up and finish the sound and the music and all that. So compressed, it was, you know, about a month, but spread out over about 6 months.
Andy and Zach was shot Christmas a year ago, and was written probably about a month or so before that, and then it was only shot in 2 days of shooting, and then about several months of editing after that, and pretty much, yeah, working on the sound and everything right up until here at Sundance, so about a little over a year.
For Small Change, I had the initial idea back in September of last year, and it never really took fully form until about January of last year. We then filmed it in March, so we filmed it over a week, and then we were in edit for about a month, and just on and off, and we finished first in June, and then we got a bit more money. We were able to go back and colour grade, and then also do a better sound mix. So yeah, so properly finished only probably around about September. So all in all, probably around a year.
Yeah, animation takes a long time. It's something for people to do with obsessive compulsive disorders who don't have well social skills. So we sit in a room and draw. For me, this film, each film I make takes about 2 years, and I tend to do hand drawing, old-fashioned hand drawing animation.
Myles is clearly a professional, but I was wondering if it was fun for you to be in this movie, and I was also wondering with the children in the other movies how that worked for you. How was it fun?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll say that Myles is probably the best actor, along with Will, that I've ever worked with, and I don't think he's ever acted before. That was his first movie ever, and he's a natural if I ever saw one, so I think he's awesome.
For Small Change, what I did was I went back to Lowery, where I'm originally from, and I wanted to get authentic people as much as possible. So I went around all the local schools, and I would cast from over 100 kids. So what I did was I wanted to find the children who really could work in the moment, and not necessarily from script, just actually have an imagination to sort of carry in the moment. So I worked with them with script and improv, and from then I picked Tina, who had a bit more experience. She'd done drama for a few years, but then the other little girl with the red hair, she had no drama experience whatsoever. So what I find when working with kids is it's better off that they don't know the camera is rolling. So for example, the scene in which Karen's outside the sweet shop and she's having a smoke, and the little girl with the ginger hair, she's sort of dancing and having a jig. She just didn't know the camera was rolling. And the first day on set we had with the girls was the amusement arcade. So it was a really great way of their first experience on set. It was kind of a bit of fun for them, and a chance for them to sort of to get to know each other, as well as to get to the experience of a full camera crew around them. Tommy, anything?
Just as Cathy said, the little red-haired girl, Holly, when we were doing the casting up in Lowery, as she said, we actually had about 95 girls audition on the day, and on the day Holly's mother, when she was in audition, turned around to Cathy's mother, who was there helping out, and said, I actually don't think Holly should be here. And this is kind of pretty much for anyone here that has kids who are thinking of getting into films or just even take part in your school plays. They may have, doubts about their abilities, but, put them at ease, because Holly now, she'd never done anything at all before until pretty much this. And her mother actually turned around to Cathy's mother and said, I don't think she should be here. She's like, all these girls, they've all done drama, been doing it for years and stuff. And lo and behold, she was perfect for exactly the part we're looking for. And, you don't have to have all this drama, you don't have to.
Just a quick note about Holly. She absolutely blew me away in the audition. I had an improv in which I had my older sister pretend that she was Laura in the film. And it was what we did in the casting scene was where Laura says that you have to go to the toilet, go now, and Holly has to say no, I want to go home. I want to see my mum. And what Holly did, she actually started crying, and I was watching this going, is she actually okay, And then so I stopped and I said, are you all right? She goes, yeah. But that's how much imagination she had, and that's what you want from kids.
Support your kids if anyone thinks they're going to acting or filmmaking, even if they don't think they have the capability. Believe me, it's early days, they can learn and be surprised what they can do.
Can you say how you selected Myles for Pioneer, and did you like the story at first, or anything to it?
We did just an open audition and saw quite a few kids, and Myles came in, was the most chilled out, and just you're able to take direction very well. If you know that, but you aren't. And he was just very clearly the best one, and so it was pretty clear from the get-go that he was the one that had to play the part. And we did some rehearsal where we just read stories and versions of that story. And do you remember the first time that we read that story to you, what you said?
Yeah.
What did you say? Hmm? Remember what you said the first time?
I forgot.
It was, we got to the part where it's like, you want to keep going? And he was like, no.
I thought it was funny that the film played much funnier last night when we saw it.
I never thought it was, I thought it was kind of charming and funny in parts, but I never thought it was uproarious the way it played last night. Right there.
What was what led you to come up with the idea behind Zach and Andy?
Well, Nick was the director, and he was actually one of the third roommate. Me and Zach were actually roommates for 2 years in New York, and the director, Nick, was our third roommate. So it was just a lot of it was borrowed from real life, and a lot of it was borrowed from the fact that Nick, actually, the director, had those Christmas lights in his bedroom year-round in real life. So that just kind of, we didn't have to set anything up. That was like our apartment, shot in our apartment, and it was pretty much, everything you see is pretty much what was actually in our apartment. So, and it was based on a couple kind of awkward internet dates, too close to reality.
What kind of cameras were used for filming in production?
I believe for Andy and Zach it was a D5. 5D, yeah. Yeah.
And we used a red.
I didn't use a camera.
We used a red as well.